All right, we're outside Roaster's Coffee right now. This is really close to where I went to high school, and this is kind of, I mean, you know, the people I hang out with tend to think this is the best coffee shop in town. Great coffee, great hang. It's packed right now. We're gonna run into at least 5 people that we know in there. It's gonna be great. Yeah, this is kind of my old haunt. I've had like 3 or 4 really terrible, awkward dates here, so I hope we don't run into those. We're gonna find out. When you go to high school here, the local high school is right down the way. So this is where you go after school just to hang out. It's a cool place. It's changed a lot since I was here though. The mascot of Richland High School, which we're gonna go to actually right after this, is the Richland Bombers, and its mascot gets a lot of heat because the mascot is it's like an R with a mushroom cloud coming out of it. Some people think that's really cool. It celebrates the history of the region, which it does. That's definitely true. I mean, there's no denying that came out of here. A lot of people think also that it's not that cool and that it's kind of, yeah, I guess insensitive or I guess just not necessarily what we'd want to celebrate. And so that kind of tension kind of underlies a lot of things around here. Actually, it's changed a lot over the years, but that's kind of always kind of been the case. I tried to capture that in the piece a little bit, especially in the poetry. So I'm kind of revisiting this now. Some of the stuff is my original poetry, like the first text is my original poetry. And then you have stuff that, you know, has to do with kind of the project, like various letters and contracts for the Manhattan Project sites that are out here about 40 miles from here. You know, it's weird living in or growing up in a place where you know what happened here has had an impact on you know, basically news worldwide. It's like you flip on the news and any sort of story, especially recently, especially with Iran or North Korea, like you can trace a lot of the roots of those problems back to what happened here in the 40s, which is really kind of a weird place. Nobody talks about it as much anymore while you're growing up here, and you don't really become aware of it until you get to like high school or something. But it's just weird to think like, wow, the decisions that were made presumably right here, not at Roasters, just wasn't here yet, but have had an impact on things that are happening today. And man, it's crazy to just, I don't know, I'm just a dude from Richland. There's nothing special about my hometown, it's just what it is. So that's kind of where this piece kind of grew from. I'm kind of flipping through this score again, and it's been a while since I was involved in writing all this. Well, this is actually the 4th movement of the piece. This piece is called B Reactor, and it was actually inspired by, of course, another bad date, where I actually went out to the B reactor, which was the world's first plutonium production reactor. It's about 40 miles from here, on the Hanford site, which you can't really go onto just whenever you want to anymore. It's now protected. It's a National Historic Landmark that you can get tours of and stuff. So I went out and did that tour, and when I came back home, this movement, number 4, it's called B Reactor, just kind of fell out. It just kind of came out, and I recorded it when I was either a sophomore or a junior in college. And then I just kind of put it on the shelf for a couple years. Occasionally someone would want to play it on one of their gigs, and I'd, you know, lend them charts. But then I ended up arranging it for big band when I was in graduate school at the Eastman School of Music. And my professor said, you know, this is the kind of thing where you could take this and develop it into something else. I thought that was interesting, and a couple months later, now there's 9 more of them. This piece, B Reactor, is very highly orchestrated. Everything is very exact. There's improvisation in it, but all the instruments have very exact parts. It's very controlled, kind of reflecting like, you know, the control that's required to carry out a nuclear reaction that produces plutonium without, you know, causing a global catastrophe. Other ones are also very highly orchestrated. This one has a lot of notes. This is the 5th movement called Trinity, which is kind of about the first atomic test. There's a ton of notes there and a bunch of chords that probably made sense at the time. I don't really remember why I picked them now. This one, this one took multiple attempts. This one is actually kind of on the atomic attacks. And I tried multiple times to write something that kind of reflected, you know, kind of how I felt about that, because it's dark. You know, was it necessary? I don't know, and I don't really feel like I have any place to say that. But certainly it was very dark, and how do you capture all that kind of mixed emotion and pain and just an event that, like I said, we still deal with today. and all that. What I ended up doing is, after a couple failed attempts to actually write something, I brought this piece of paper into my band, and I just set it in front of them, and basically said, make of this what you will. This is the kind of the building blocks. These are the two building blocks of the whole piece. Every movement has these motifs appearing in some form in them. And then let's see. This section is kind of the end there. The final 45 seconds of that movement, as you'll hear on the record, kind of represents the time it took from the bomb to be released from the plane till the time it detonated over Japan, and then obviously silence. Which there obviously would not have been that day, but how do you capture something that insane with anything but silence? So it was kind of an interesting process for me writing it.